Welcome back to Playing to Win. And this week's episode, we've got reality TV star turned female entrepreneur Elissa Corrigan, the founder of Elle Sera and the creator of the ultimate hormonal supplement for women that's been dubbed the female Viagra. Elissa, welcome to Playing to Win.
Thank you very much for having me.
It is so nice to have you here. Honestly, your journey from where you started to where you are now is just so fascinating. Where did that all start for you? How are we here?
Where do we want to begin? Where do you want to go from?
Let's start with Desperate Scousewives.
Okay, Desperate Scousewives. So
how did that opportunity come up?
So I was a journalist at the time, and I just split up with like my first boyfriend, and obviously this was in the period where Towie had just come out, and then Geordie Shore had come out on MTV, and I was friends with a blogger named Jaden. He was telling me about this reality show, and I was like, oh, it sounds amazing, you should go for it. He's like, I'm going to the casting. I was like, oh, amazing, brilliant. And at this time, I'm just like a roving reporter, do you know what I mean? I'm a freelance journalist just covering all kinds of nonsense for the tabloids. So anyway, he goes to the auditions, he does really well, and he was asking in one of the auditions, he was like, oh, who else have you got lined up for the cast? And maybe I know him. And they said, oh, we've got a guy called Joe and his on-off girlfriend, Layla. And he was like, Joe, I know Joe. He's like, doesn't even like her. And he was like, he's still like hung up on his ex, Elissa. And they said, oh, who's Elissa? And they said, you should meet her, she's a friend of mine. So at this point, I was like, he was like, come on, just come for the meeting, just come for the meeting. I was like, oh my God, like there's no chance I would want to do this. Do you know what I mean? I was too self-conscious about the way I looked. Do you know what I mean? It's a big thing to put yourself on television. And don't forget, this is reality TV heyday, yeah? And I was always, I don't know, I was just really underconfident and insecure at this time. Anyway, like I said, I was a journalist, and I thought, well, I don't really want to do the show, but I think it would be an interesting article, if I told everybody how you get on a reality show. So all my meetings with all the casting directors, all the screen tests, all the rest of it, I recorded every single meeting. So I used to put a tape recorder down my bra. And
oh my God, I love that so much. You're like wearing a wire.
Yeah, well, exactly, yeah. Just to remember, you know, actually kind of like remember exactly, factually, what happened in these meetings, because sometimes you forget and you've got to be right. So then I was still doing a lot of journalism at the time, and I was working a lot with a lot of tabloids. For whatever reason, I really started moving away from doing that. And the process was quite long. It was about 3-4 months, and they were kind of getting to the end where they were deciding on final cast. And I think there was about 30 of us in the running. And I remember we all did an ice-breaking session together, and you could kind of see who was potentially going to get picked for the show. And I was there, and I just looked around this room, and I just thought, I am just completely different to these girls, like 1,000,000%. You can see it on the show.
Yeah,
you can see
absolutely can. Yeah,
you can see it on the show. You can see it today.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. So they were very blonde. They were very glamorous,
very stereotypical
Scouse. They were Scouse. I wasn't even a Scouse.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I mean? Or desperate. so
or a housewife.
Exactly. You know, they've all got fake boobs. They've all got like dripping in Louboutins and glamorous sequins.
Just a completely different
vibe to me. Who was like actually had a job.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Living in my own apartment. I'm trying to be a career girl. So when I got picked for the show, that was, you know, I was like, wow, okay, I've been picked. So I had to make a decision then.
Yeah.
But then I thought, well, maybe it won't be a bad thing, because I really wanted to get out of the journalism, because I was doing a lot of undercover stuff, but now I knew I couldn't go back to doing that.
Yeah.
Because I would have a bit of a profile, but that was fine. I was kind of done with it anyway. So that's kind of how that came about. And again, on the show, I remember like the opening credits, you know, they've got like irons and feather dusters, haven't they, and things like that. And I was just like, I'm not doing that.
No.
Because that's not me. What do you think I am? Like some kind of housewife who's going to sit around for some fella? That was just not me.
Yeah.
Then, it's not me now, and it wasn't how I was going to be portrayed. And back then, I was kind of glad I was that ballsy, because it was a ballsy thing to say, not being in the lineup for the entire show.
Yeah. 100%.
You know what I mean? I was still a main character, but I refused to be in the beginning of it if they were going to make me do some ironing.
Yeah.
So I was like, no, I'm not doing that.
And I think it's so interesting that you actually challenged that stereotype, even though you've just said yourself that you weren't that confident. And actually,
I know.
You knew deep down what your path was, and it was never going to be that. And you had the balls to say, actually, I don't think so.
Yeah, and that's why they were like, okay, that's great. We can lean into the fact that you're a career girl, the fact that you are, you know, the book smart one, maybe, I don't know. And that's kind of what they did. But I remember in the first episode, like I had to meet my ex on screen for the first time. They got me really drunk, or I got myself really drunk, whatever you want to say, but much courage. And I just remember like swearing so much.
Yeah.
Thankfully, they took out like 35 fucks from me because they were like, we're trying to portray you as this like articulate
like you're the businesswoman.
And all you're doing is going, you fucking bastard. You know what I mean?
Oh my God, I love this so much.
Yeah.
I love this. But also, so it is real then? Like that was a real experience for you?
Well, yeah. So that actually really was my ex. Whereas all the other storylines on the show was not.
Just completely
not
fabricated.
Real. Yeah, completely
it's so
fabricated.
interesting because I think with reality TV, we never really know the truth.
Well,
and then once the tabloids get involved as well,
this
you're
was
like,
the
what's
reason
true?
It didn't work, because every single girl that they picked had a boyfriend off the show who was never going to be on the show.
Right.
You know, a lot of them were avoiding the law most of the time, so they weren't going to put themselves on TV, right? So you had every single girl on the show already had a boyfriend off the show. So anything that they wrote in as kind of like romance or love scene or anything like that was completely fabricated. Where at least on Towie, if they're going out on the show, like Mark and Lot, they were going out in real life, and that's why it was genuine and authentic and it worked well. So it was just complete rubbish from the start, and I knew it. I knew it when we were filming it. It was garbage, and I never thought it was going to make me a multi-millionaire. You know, I went in with my eyes open. I ended up doing my story, my expose on how you get on a reality show, and this is how scripted it actually is.
That's so smart. But also, was that always do you feel like it's always been strategic for you, or have you always kind of moved on like intuition and feeling?
I wouldn't say it was. Listen, I just thought, what's the worst that can happen?
Yeah.
It's a bit of fun, whatever. And well, here we are today. That must have been what? I was 25, 26. I'm now 39, and we're still talking about it.
Exactly. So it's obviously happened for a reason.
I'm still dining out on it.
And you should for the entire rest of your career. But so when you were a journalist, what got you into journalism? What was it about that?
Do you know what? I don't know. It's not like I sat there and like thought, right, I really want to be a truth seeker, and I've got this like, you know, want to be a Pulitzer Prize winning journalist, and I want to uncover injustices. Absolutely not. But what I thought was, I'd just come out of uni and I'd just done a degree in English and history, and my dad was like, maybe you should be a teacher. And I was like, joking, a teacher? No way. And I just didn't want to get a job at that time. So I was speaking to a friend from school, and she was like, oh, I'm going to do a journalism master's. I was like, oh, are you? She was like, yeah, I'm doing it here. And I was like, okay, I'm going to apply. And I applied for it, and I ended up getting the place because there was only 25 spaces and like loads of people applied. I remember going to the interview, and it was like an interview exam style, which is weird for uni. But yes, I was so nervous. It's actually, this is a funny story. It's a total, you know, we're deviating from the chat here, but I feel like it's a good one, right?
No.
Okay, cool.
Everything.
So just finished uni, and I've got my interview for my journalism the next day, and I thought, right, I'll go to Next and go and buy myself a new shirt. And this is in the time I'm still watching Neighbours midday. So I'm watching Neighbours midday at home, right? And I'm getting my makeup on, and I'm making myself look pretty good because I'm just watching Neighbours, and I'm just putting more and more makeup on, doing my hair. And I remember I was wearing this stripy off the shoulder top, this scarf, right? Like a cravat, these long jeans and some heels. And I was strutting through town with a Fendi bag. Anyway, out of the corner of my eye, I see Holly Willoughby. And I was like, oh, fucking hell, there's Holly Willoughby, right? So I'm strutting, walking forward, ignoring, because I can see she's coming over to me. And I'm thinking, oh, what is she coming over here for? And she's with the film crew. Anyway, they were like, hi. Can we just talk to you? I was like, yeah. And she was filming Street Mate.
Remember Street Mate? Yeah, I do, yeah.
Anyway, so they asked me, are you single, blah, blah, blah. I was like, yeah. And they were like, okay, you're free tomorrow. And I was like, well, no, I've got my uni.
Yeah.
I've got my uni like interview. And she was like, okay, well, I said, let me ring them and see if I can rearrange it. So I rang them. They let me rearrange it. And I ended up going on Street Mate on this date with this guy called Phil. It's so funny.
Where is Phil now? I wonder where
I
Phil
don't
is
know
now.
because he's deleted me on Facebook.
So it is actually really intuitive. Everything you've done has always come from like a feeling as opposed to a strategy of I'm going to be a journalist, I'm going to get into the media.
Yeah.
It's always just been what felt right in the moment.
Well, yeah, exactly. Then I get into doing journalism, and I knew even. Do you know what? Again, this is a funny story that I've not actually told on the podcast, but I'll tell you now.
Oh, exclusive.
Shout out to my teacher, Delwyn Swingewood, his name was. And he still follows me. I know he drops me an email from time to time, seeing what I'm up to. But I just, like, I was always a good creative writer.
Okay.
Should never have been a journalist.
Right, okay,
Because I
yeah.
was a good creative writer.
Yeah.
Creative writing, storytelling is actually my skill set. That's not what journalism is.
No.
Journalism is watching things and relaying it back, okay, with fact.
Yeah.
Right? Not trying to spin a yarn.
Yeah, exactly.
Unless you're working for tabloids. And obviously you can understand why I went into that. So, but I was practicing, I was in my uni course, and we used to have to like produce like fake newspapers and stuff. Anyway, I'd already decided on this. We were doing an educational like supplement for a newspaper, and it was me and like half of the class that were doing it. And I was given this task of doing like some kind of sex education or something like that, coming up with a story about sex education. And what I was supposed to do is find something that was going on in the media, write it for this fake magazine that we're producing. And I just completely fabricated the whole story, right? And by the way, I think this could come true. I said that they were now teaching the Kama Sutra in primary schools because they wanted to teach primary school kids about loving relationships. And there's a lot more to the Kama Sutra than just sex positions.
I don't think you're that far off with
I don't
that
fucking
one.
think I am these days,
No.
right? But back then when I was doing this,
it was
in the
shocking.
20s.
Yeah.
So, and by the way, so I wrote this whole story, made up quotes, blah, blah, blah. It's a fake newspaper anyway. It's not getting printed. And I even put the head teacher's name as R. Herring, like red herring. Anyway, so I pass it in to like my fellow students who are just like, yeah, brilliant piece, blah, blah, blah. Right. And I'm thinking, have they fucking fallen for this? They've not even checked it or fact checked it. They're probably thinking, well, why should we? Because one of our own team wouldn't fuck us over like this, right?
Yeah.
So I'm in the pub, finished it, handed it in. We're just about to finish the paper, whatever. And I'm not the editor on this fake paper or the news editor or anything. I've done it, you know, finished. I'm in the pub and my teacher's there, Delwyn, and I'm just laughing about it basically. And I tell him, and he was like, you've done what, right? And I was like, come on, Delwyn. You wanted to test if I can find a story.
Yeah.
Can I write the quotes correctly? Blah, blah, blah. Does it really matter? It's a fake newspaper anyway. But he was more annoyed at like my teammates who hadn't flagged it or even questioned it. Do you know what I mean? So they then ended up getting in trouble. And obviously then they were all mad at me because we got like a shit mark for it. But I was like, well, it was a good story, whatever. Anyway, I still keep in touch with this guy today and he always remembers that and I always remember it too. And so that was just kind of, I was always good at creative writing, right?
Yeah.
So that's
like a boundary push. Like you're like pushing the boundaries.
Of course.
In like a really quite an intellectual way that maybe just didn't realise at the time.
No, I was just like, I could more, you know, we'd done so many of these throughout the year. It was like our last bit of work for the term and I just thought I'd have a bit of fun with it. But anyway.
God forbid.
Yeah. But can I just tell you that there's about 3 people on that entire course that actually made it into a journalism job, me being one of them. And I thought, they don't know what they're doing. They haven't got, you know, you've either got it or you haven't. And mainly, have you got any balls? Because what I found out on the job was everything that I'd learnt in uni was irrelevant.
Yeah.
Right? And when you're actually out on the streets trying to find a story, difficult. Have you got the balls to do it? Have you got the balls to go up people and ask them some of the most intimate personal details? Somebody might have just died and you've got to go and knock on their door and go and ask for a picture of the deceased or whatever. And you've got to have the balls to do that. Half of them in that class were complete wallflowers anyway. So I keep in touch with a few of them that like really made it. But they were all into like The Guardian and like, you know, the broadsheets and stuff and magazine features. And I was always like out on the hunt. And you can tell because of the work I ended up doing. I ended up going to a press agency, which is really hard.
Yeah,
Like, you've
really
got to
hard.
spot stories,
Mhm.
package them up and try and sell them into the nationals. And you have to do that every single day. But listen, that kind of training really, I mean, what a training ground for entrepreneurship.
Completely, absolutely. And when you look back, do you think that if you hadn't gone to uni, you would have ended up in the same place? Or do you look back and think that was just a complete waste of my time? Because I know how
No.
I feel about uni, and it's the latter. So how do you feel like everything has led you to where you are, or you had to pivot?
No, definitely. Listen, first of all, I ended up in Liverpool. So therefore, look at that's a big decision. Which city are you going to end up in if you go into university?
Yeah.
Not necessarily what you're studying,
Yeah.
or who are you going to be around and influenced by. That's a big one. Or you are, independent at 18
Yeah, 100%.
and trying to like kind of find your own way in the world. Is it wasted? No, I don't think so. Does anybody ever ask me about my degree apart from on podcast? Never.
Yeah.
Have I ever had to produce one piece of paper that says I've got one? Two of
It's
them?
so true, isn't
Never.
it?
Went through all my NCTJs, can do shorthand. Does anybody care about that? No.
Exactly.
But I had this argument with somebody online this morning, and they were saying that homework is irrelevant. It's teaching kids how to do unpaid work, and I was like, that is not what that is.
No.
It's teaching people to have recall when they go home, and not only that, it's problem solving on their own, and that teaches you like neural pathways, so that when you're in a situation again where need to problem solve, you can do that. And that is, again, when you go to university, you learn a lot more than just going to university.
Yeah.
It's about being independent, living on your own, meeting new people from all different walks of background. I had 2 Chinese girls who lived with me.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, it's about meeting a diverse friendship group.
Broadening your horizons
Absolutely.
as well.
So
yeah, that's
it's not
such a good way
just
to look
about
at
the
it.
paper it's printed on. I ended up in Liverpool, literally, because I heard a song on the radio and I thought, they're Scousers. And do you know what it was? It was Pretty Green Eyes. And I thought, they're Scousers. And I like that
Are
song.
they?
Yeah, so
God.
I put that down
I didn't know that.
on my UCAS form.
Oh, I love that.
I didn't even go and see the university.
You just knew.
No,
Again,
I didn't know.
you've acted on like a feeling of like,
No,
this feels good.
No, it's just totally disorganised. Didn't
Yeah.
do anything that I should have done. You know what I mean? I took days off and said I was going to look around universities, but didn't. You know, all those things. And then I'm like panicking when the day comes and I'm like, that'll do. Do you know what I mean?
And look where it led you. It's obviously such a good decision.
Well, look where it led Nick. You know,
I think that's the power of intuition.
Desperate Scousewives.
Yeah. And so from Desperate Scousewives, how then did Bear Grylls come into the picture? So you had your little taste of reality TV, and then how did that then happen?
I would have done Bear Grylls with there being no cameras there, by the way. So
it looks like a life-changing experience.
Yeah, it was unreal, yeah. So I obviously finished Desperate Scousewives, things like that, but I'd met a lot of people along the way, like reality TV circuit. I ended up doing a lot of ghostwriting for reality stars because I'm still doing a lot of the writing. So the writing has always been like my bread and butter and that storytelling stuff. Still doing a bit of journalism, but nothing amazing. But I was always writing about health and wellness. I was really into that.
So that's always been a thread.
Always been a thread for me, yeah, definitely. Especially in my later 20s. So I was living down south in Winchester, and I had just split up with somebody. So I was like, oh my God, what am I going to do? I'll have to go back to Liverpool, because that's where my friends and family were and stuff like that. So went back to Liverpool, and I was not doing anything. I had nothing to lose.
Yeah.
And my friend Jess Cunningham, shout out to Jess, we went to school together. And I mean, she's smashing it now. She's got an amazing life story. You should have her on the pod. But I was speaking to Jess, and she was like, oh, I'm doing this event tomorrow. Can you come to it? And I was like, yeah, I can help you. And she was like, I'm interviewing Ant Middleton. And I was like, all right, yeah, I know him. He's the SAS guy. And this was kind of before Ant was like big time famous.
Yeah.
I think they'd done 2 seasons of SAS at this point. So he's well known, you know what I mean? I said, yeah, I know that guy. And he had his first book out. Anyway, she was doing like some kind of mindset thing. There was about 500 people turning up to it. She was like, I don't know anything about him. So I was like, all right, I'll write you the questions. I've read his book. Anyway, I give her the questions and she's like, can you just do it? And I was like, what? And she was like, can you just do it? And I was like, and I'm joking. And this is like 12 hours before the event. I was like, you joking? And I was so nervous because now I wasn't prepped. Do you know what I mean? I'm thinking I've got nothing to wear. What am I going to do? All these things. So I went to go and meet him before the event, and we had some dinner. And I was like, I've got loads of questions here I'm going to ask you on stage. So I'm really nervous about it. And he was really good, really cool. He was like, well, I'll help you through it. I'm not going to give you one word answers. And I was like, okay. And he was, as I was telling him a lot of like I'd done some extreme boot camps at this stage. And he was like, if you've done all that, you could come on SAS. And I was like, I've got no interest in SAS. I feel like I've done it at these extreme boot camps. Plus, I said, where you do it in Scotland, it's way too cold for me. I'll give up straight away. I'm not doing that. But then he was like, well, I think you'd be good at it. And I thought, well, maybe I should do a challenge. I've got nothing to lose. I'm not really doing anything.
Yeah.
So why don't I? So then I thought, Bear Grylls, the island, it just came to me. And I thought, I wonder if when the next show is. I looked it up that night when I got home. And literally, I had about 14 hours or something like that to get my thing in. And I was like, shit, okay, Shine TV. And I rang a pal of mine who had worked with me on Scousewives, I was like, do you know anyone at Shine TV? And he was like, yeah, I do know someone over there. I was like, right, tell them to look out for my profile. And I wrote this thing, creative writing comes back in now. I wrote this thing that was absolutely outrageous. No matter what, you would have wanted to ring the person who'd written this, because it was just like,
I love that.
oh, like, you know, I was like, I'm blessed with high self-esteem and this and that and the other, like the most big-headed character you could ever wish to meet. So they did, they rang me, and I've just made sure that I delivered. And know people want good television, so you got to deliver. And I really wanted to do the show, just not only to give me something to do, but also because I just split up with someone. I just, you know, didn't know what I was doing with my life. I really didn't. I was probably 33 at this time. And I was like, I don't know which way to go.
Yeah.
So I'd like to kind of have some kind of cool life experience and maybe get a bit of, I don't know, some time on my own and reflect without any distractions.
Yeah.
And I mean, Christ, there are no distractions there. There's not even any artificial light, you know what I mean?
And is it exactly as it looks then?
It's worse than you can ever imagine, because I was that person who watched every single episode before I went and was a complete armchair expert going, well, I would have done this and I would have done that. And why don't you just fish? And why don't you just do this?
Yeah.
Fucking no chance.
Yeah.
It's so much harder than you can ever imagine. You can't understand. I would suggest that anybody try and do a 24-hour fast. And if you can do that, try and do 36-hour fast. And you tell me how much that scrambles with your mindset. Being that hungry and thirsty. You know, it's like you can't think of anything else. And you're angry and you're stressed. And you don't know these people from Adam.
That's it as well. You're with complete strangers.
Exactly.
Complete strangers.
And they've all got different personalities. And at that moment, you're just like, what is going on? I remember that first night. Just next time you're in some forest, right? Just have a look on the floor and just think, I'm just going to lie down there and sleep for the next 12 hours. Because that's essentially every single night, that's what I was doing.
So it really was exactly how it's portrayed, like how we see it on TV.
Well worse. I'll tell you now, it's so much worse than you can ever imagine.
Oh my goodness.
And they cut out a lot of the arguments. It was actually, I was thinking, God, they could have edited this a lot better than they had.
They needed you doing it, didn't they? You know what people want.
Can I just say I'm very grateful for the way they edited me. Because it was 1,000 times worse. Like, I just looked pretty useless on the island, but I was actually moaned all the time. Me and Marco would argue every day. I mean, quite viciously as well. None of that made the cut. I was so glad. I wouldn't have wanted to see that back.
Yeah. But also you were in a completely different state to what you would be in your
They actually made it very wholesome to the, I mean, some of the things that I said, you know, I cringe at now, and I'm thinking, thank God that never got aired, because it just would have ruined. It would literally ruin you.
Yeah.
But it's not that type of show. Bear Grylls wouldn't get involved in that. He's a really wholesome guy. And,
exactly.
And at the end of the day, it's about teamwork and stuff. And that's kind of the way that they portrayed it. Thank God.
So do you think that, like, during that process, were there any times where you were like, I'm going to quit. I can't do this?
Yeah. All the time.
Really? And so what was it that kept you there?
Well, this is on television. I'm not a quitter. You know what I mean? Christ, there's no way. You know, you'd have to live with yourself the rest of your life. Because the thing is, you know, it's a finite. I knew I was there for like just over.
You could see, you knew there was light at the end of the tunnel, kind of thing.
Yeah, and I remember being like 2 weeks in and thinking, I'm not even halfway. I'm not even halfway, and this has been the worst experience of my life. You guess anything in the jungle is going to kill you and just trying to kill you all of the time.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? I cut my foot on like the second day, and obviously you're in filthy socks. You've only got one item of clothing of everything. There's no toothbrushes, there's no luxury items, there's no nothing. So it's just infected. And every night when I'm trying to go to sleep, I can just feel my foot pounding and just like squeezing pus out every single night because I've got filthy socks on and filthy shoes on.
Oh my God. It
So
really
that's just
is.
that's like the tiniest thing. Then you're covered in sandfly bites from head to toe and you can't stop scratching, and mosquito bites all over you, and you look like shit, and you know you're going out on Channel 4.
Yeah, yeah,
and
yeah.
do you know what I mean? I can't, you know, and I'm wearing my glasses, and I'm just thinking, this is just hell on earth.
That takes a lot of confidence to do what you did. A lot of confidence to go somewhere, literally a deserted island with nothing, knowing you're on TV.
I tell you now, I wouldn't do it now.
That's interesting. What would it? Why do you feel like you wouldn't do it now?
Because I didn't have anything to lose then. Didn't have
Yeah,
a partner,
okay.
didn't have a child, didn't have a business, didn't have
Got nothing to lose.
I had a fiver in my pocket. I
Yeah,
had nothing to lose.
that's
But,
incredible.
but now, you know what I mean? I'm
Yeah, of
I've
course.
become a bit too comfortable, if I'm honest. That genuinely, I'm like, oh, any mild inconvenience, you know.
Yeah, no, it's so true.
I'm not booking into a hotel unless they've got turn down service. Do you know what I mean? I'm thinking,
lay on the floor of a forest. I don't think so.
But listen, that's not to say I couldn't do it. Like, I've done a lot of hard things. I've done a run with no shoes on, things like that. I've done a lot of mental things that are physically tough. I feel like now I've done a lot of physical toughness in my life, tested myself physically, done really, really hard things. Now I feel like the pressure I put myself under, business-wise, financially,
Yeah.
you know, putting myself out there a lot more, and stakes are a lot higher.
Yeah.
And it's a different kind of pressure. It's not physical anymore, it's mental, you know, the anxiety, the roller coaster, the obstacles, feel like you're going to get it taken away from you all the time, the competitors you have to deal with, the regulations you have to deal with. Every day, you know, there's something else that's super stressful. The fact that I'm busy all the time, and I've got to be here, there and everywhere. And now I've got a daughter, and then this morning I'm having to peel her off me, and she's crying and crying and crying. I've got to leave the house. You know, it's total different pressure now.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think entrepreneurship is so glamorized as well, like especially on social media. But actually, yes, there are so many amazing benefits to it, but also it's really hard. It's really hard. And I don't think that's often spoke about as much. It just feels like everyone should just go and build their own business. And the reality of behind the scenes of that is exactly what you just said.
Yeah, fucking hell. I'll tell you what, one of my biggest tools in this business is freaking beta blockers. I feel like I'm living off them sometimes. Like, that should be spoken about more. I don't know one entrepreneur who's not living off beta blockers because, you know, I go to bed sweating and stressing about things, and then I'm thinking, I still haven't done that thing that I was meant to do 2 weeks ago. Like, I only just finished something this morning that I should have done nearly 3 weeks ago, and I'm like, that, and it's like really, it's been really important, but I need that time to focus and just be on my own and do it and kind of go through the paces. And I haven't even had a minute.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because I'm always busy. And then when I'm trying to pay one invoice, I get distracted by something else on my phone, or something else always needs my attention.
That's it, especially being a mum as well. I can totally relate to that in the sense of you have to you're constantly having to shift your energy to do different things, and it's constantly going from mum energy, boss energy, this energy, that energy, and it's just, there's such a myth that I feel like is actually so damaging to women, is when it's like, you can have it all, you can go and be this massive career woman, and you can go and yes you can, but you can't have it all at once at the same time, if that makes sense. Like, something's always going to have to,
I don't think,
give.
I've really changed my tune on all that. I really don't think we should be trying to have it all.
No, I completely agree.
I really don't.
I think it's quite damaging. Damaging.
And I feel like these 80s career women who are like, we can do it all. And I think everybody's turning off from that now and actually realising, you know, you're still doing all the bullshit around the house. You're still trying to be the mother. And remember, like, you know, I've got an Easter bonnet to make this week. And I'm doing all that as well as new product development that I'm trying to do at the same time.
And they're worlds apart from each other, and you have to like consistently shift between the different things, and it's really difficult. What do you think it was about? Do you think your experience on the island led you to Elle Sera?
Definitely. definitely some of the decisions I've made in the business and still making the business today came from that experience there.
Interesting.
So the fact that it is so one of the biggest things that I saw on the island, and this is like a deserted island in the, off the coast of Panama.
Yeah.
The amount of litter and rubbish everywhere is disgusting.
Yeah.
Unbelievable. So, plastic bottles everywhere, plastic, toothbrushes, single-use plastic everywhere. It was a joke. So one of the biggest offenders is health and beauty and also the supplement space for plastic. So I knew when I was entering this space, I didn't want to be kind of exacerbating the problem. So that's kind of, and honestly, I'll be honest, consumers don't care.
No, they don't. They
do not care. They don't care if your business is B Corp. They don't care if it comes in plastic packaging. They don't care as long as it makes them feel better.
Yeah.
Actually, people are incredibly selfish, and that's what I've realised. So even though I go to very great lengths to, make things sustainable, even like, it would have been a lot easier if I'd have made this in plastic. It's glass.
Cheaper as well.
So much cheaper to have a plastic lid, but it's aluminium. You know what I mean? But I do that because that's my core value. And there's a reason that island shaped me after I saw everything. So, yeah, there's a reason, whether the consumers like it or not, that is the reason that we do it. We've just changed our capsule shell, actually, at the moment. It used to be shiny gold. I've now changed it to matte gold, and everyone's asking me why. And it's because this was an idea I had a long time ago. I was like, well, maybe if we dye it naturally, what could we dye it with? And we're trying loads of different things to try and get it to that like goldy colour. And it's taken like 2 years in R&D to do this. And eventually, like, we tried saffron, we tried other like flowers that we could try and use to get the dyes from it, and it just wasn't working. And eventually we settled on riboflavin, which is B2, which is something that, you have in your body. It's a B vitamin. And I was like, brilliant, that's brilliant, because it's actually got some health benefits as well. And now, so we've changed it matte gold. And everyone's asking me why we've changed it. And I'm like, well, this is why I've changed it. It's made it even better product.
Yeah.
I'm always looking for innovation and pushing it on. So to go back to your point of what else helped shape my decisions.
Yeah.
So definitely the sustainability thing, but also just giving me that kind of, you've had worse days than this, Elissa, you know what I mean? So when I'm having a bad day in work, I'm thinking, oh my God,
I could be back on that island.
Could be back on that island, definitely. But some of the words that Bear Grylls used to say to us, and I only met him properly for like 20, 30 minutes before he dropped us off, and he had a bit of a one-on-one chat with everybody. And he was like, you're in a survival now, and take no risk. Here, there is no risk. Do not take risks. If there is like 2 ways of going around the pathway, and one is really rocky and one you can divert around into the woodland, always go that way where you take no risk. And I was like, okay, great. But in business, you probably do have to take risks,
Complete
but
opposite.
calculated risks.
Yeah.
So I always try and do, whenever I make a decision, like, let's play this out, let's forecast what would happen if I did that, and what would what would happen if I did this? And I always kind of remember that. Is this a risk worth taking? So I always remember that. And then the other thing he said to me was, you might end up, don't it's cliche these days, but don't worry about failure, because when we're on that island, you might be like fishing in one area for ages and you might not get anything. And then you might move and move and move and move and move. And then bingo, on the 8th one, you might start getting some fish or something.
Yeah.
You've learnt 7 ways how not to do it. So if you're going to fail quickly, move on from it. You know what I mean?
The exact qualities that you need as an entrepreneur.
Well, yeah, exactly. And I feel like they're a bit cliche now, but I always bring it back to those moments of like, well, yeah, I can actually bring that back into a real life scenario.
Yeah, absolutely.
Of how we did it and how not to do it.
Oh my God, honestly. And from the health and wellness perspective, you've worked a lot with women, haven't you, on their health? And what was it that led you to want to create a supplement specifically for women that is just like, all I ever see about this is it's the golden pill, it's, female Viagra. I think you spoke on Abby Clancy's podcast recently about that. What was it that led you to create that specific product? You knew it was going to be sustainable. What was it? What was that decision based on?
Basically, I was running health retreats at the time. And like I said, I've always been into health and wellness. And every single person that I met pretty much it's with women, there's always can be a hormonal imbalance at some point in the month. And actually, we don't really talk about that much. We definitely didn't back then. And it was one lady who messaged me saying, what can I do for my libido? And I was like, I don't know myself, actually, but let me look into it.
Yeah.
Because as a journalist and I like researching things, I started looking into it quite a lot. And I found a few ingredients, spoke to a herbal biologist, and I was like, okay, Debs, here you go. Here's a little list of things that I think you should take. And essentially, you want to be supporting your testosterone and your DHEA levels. So yeah, gave her a little protocol to follow, and this was ended up being like 5 or 6 different products at the time. And I thought maybe there's something in this if she's asking me about it. So kind of zoomed out a bit, and I did a lot of digging on Google data and seeing if this was a bigger problem, because again, I was like young 30s at the time. It wasn't like I wasn't really thinking about menopause. I wasn't really, but I was around it a lot with my like mum and my boyfriend's mum and the women that I worked with on retreat, and they just didn't know why they were feeling like this. So I kind of looked at some of these ingredients and thought, yeah, this is quite an expensive way to take this if you take in each individual product. So maybe I should put it together. And, when I'm always about creative writing and headlines. And I thought maybe we could like kind of dub it the female Viagra,
I love it.
Kind of see if that flies. Anyway, it did. It stuck, and it's stuck ever since. And actually, like, this is something I came up with in the car like one morning, and never ever thought this would like be the path for the next 4 years.
It rarely is it? Like, it rarely is. It's always those things that you think that's just something for now, but then it ends up being like this huge wave that you've created.
I know. And maybe I would have thought, but listen, if I'd have thought more into it and didn't know what could happen, would I have still got with it? Who knows? But it doesn't matter. Sometimes you've just got to go with it and then deal with it.
Yeah, and I think as well, what's so powerful about it is that women's sexuality, women aging, it's always with a caveat of some kind of shame. It's always like women should be ashamed of their sexuality, or like there's a lot of shame around women aging, and actually you've completely flipped that on its head, whether it's intentional or not. And actually this is an amazing product that is going to increase your libido because you're allowed to.
Yeah.
Like, no, it's like giving women permission.
It can definitely help, absolutely. I'm not saying they're going to turn you into a wanton sex goddess overnight, do you know what I mean? But there's loads of other added benefits that come from the product as well. Yeah, definitely. But I feel like the reason it has a French name is because I absolutely love French women, and they are very aspirational to look at.
Yeah.
They like to age gracefully. They don't talk about any treatments that they have done. They have tweakments here and there, but it would be the absolute last thing they would ever talk about.
Yeah.
And actually in French culture, like, older things are actually more beautiful, right? And even including older women. Buildings, art, wine, everything is really celebrated. And the ads that you see in French magazines, they use older models than they do in America and the UK. They really celebrate older women. So that's kind of why it's steeped in a bit of French culture. And obviously they're so chic and fabulous as well. We're a very aspirational brand. We're premium, but that's not to say we lose any of that realness.
No.
We use a lot of our real women in all of our campaigns. And yeah, I just kind of want to show, hitting midlife can look great. Because if you ever Google midlife women or menopausal women or anything like that, what you're going to see is like people with grey hair holding their head like this, or hot flashes and whatever. Or you see the other end of the scale where it's like women doing yoga and drinking a green juice and looking great. And I'm like, where's the sex appeal in this? You know what I mean? Where's the funkiness and the vibrancy?
We don't use our sexuality, lose our sexuality when we get to a certain age.
No, and you still want to feel young. And
of course you do.
Yeah. So anyway, so a lot of our creative, it really reflects that, that spunky, sparky.
It does, yeah. And it is aspirational. It is an aspirational brand, 100%. And I think it's so interesting because, like you said, the way the French kind of celebrate aging, especially like feminine aging, it's so interesting because from an like energetic scientific perspective, the hormonal recalibration we go through at that age, is our most powerful. And it's like women who have gone through menopause, are going through menopause, are at their most powerful, but society and probably the media's probably played quite a big role in it as well.
It's very interesting. I'm reading a book at the moment, and do you know what? There's no other animal on earth that lives past menopause apart from a killer whale.
There you go.
Right, so apes, they lose their fertility around mid-30s and they die pretty much straight after. But they are fertile the rest of their lives, and men are fertile for the rest of their lives. So there is a theory put forward. I don't know if I agree with it or not yet, because I'm not quite finished it, but it's called the grandmother theory. So we've evolved to live past menopause as humans because you need to pass down that information to make the human race survive.
Yeah.
So you need to pass down and help your daughters and help your daughters-in-law get pregnant, raise a child. It takes a village. So that's the theory put forward by this philosopher.
I quite like that.
Yeah. So
even if there's no necessary science in it yet, that's a really nice thing to think, that because you do become this kind of portal of wisdom, don't you? Like the older you get, and especially women, once we've gone through that energetic kind of reset, there is so much power in that. And I think we've been so trained to think, oh God, once I've had menopause, that's it. I'm done. And especially as like the younger generations of women, it's not something that we ever think about. I never used to think about it. And it's only now I'm in my 30s that I'm like, okay, this is coming.
I didn't really think about it in my early 30s.
I think I only am because it's spoken about a lot more widely now than it has been before. And obviously being in hormonal health as well, that probably plays a part of it too. But yeah, I feel like we're just so like, once you've hit menopause, you're kind of forgotten about. And I think we see that a lot. But actually, what you're doing is to completely challenge that and say, no, this is when you're going to feel your best and we're going to help you do it.
Yeah, hopefully that's what we're trying to do.
You are 100%. I've seen like the reviews for the Golden Pill are insane. Like people see really significant shifts in their well-being, don't they?
Yeah, they are unbelievable actually.
Yeah,
I'm so proud of our reviews. I really am, because people really pour their heart out in them. Yeah, I'm so grateful for them. I never could imagine like some of the things that I read on a daily basis. It's lovely.
How does that make you feel when you look back as well at your journey and what it's taken to get here? Because all of this that we've spoke about has led you exactly where you are now. To be able to see those reviews and think, oh my God, that's because of me.
Yeah, I never stopped to think about that. You know what I mean?
You should.
Well, I always think, you know, you can start smelling the roses a bit too much sometimes.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I feel like there's a time to do that. And there's a time to just get on and do it and actually just get your head down and work. Do you know what I mean? I'm not somebody who celebrates a lot of these things. I'm probably quite tough, do you know what I mean? Because I see some people and some brands and stuff, and I'm like, God, they're celebrating that. Like, do you know what I mean?
We did that 5 years ago.
I know, but I'm like, I've literally, like, as soon as it's done, I've forgot about it. It's like a goal that I'm hitting, and then it's literally, great, move on to the next one. And I never stop to kind of hit that, like, plateau and go, okay, let's just stay here. Because if you just stay in there, you're declining.
Yeah,
you might as well be declining. Stagnant.
Yeah, that's it. So do you think that because you do have that fear of, if I stop and like pat myself on the back a little bit, I'm going to lose my momentum?
Yeah,
yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah, I think with entrepreneurship that's so easy as well.
You can't imagine what it was like getting pregnant. I was like,
how old were you when you fell pregnant?
37.
How was that journey for you?
Well, it was difficult. I was just anxious a lot of the time because I thought, how am I going to leave this business? We're not in any fit shape to be taking my foot off the pedal right now. You know what I mean? I was trying to grow the team, trying to grow the business, trying to, you know, do more, be more, you know. Oh my God. And the moods I was in some days. And I tried not to take it out on the people around me, but it was just like, and I wasn't taking it out on people around me at all. It wasn't like I was shouting at them. It was more like, I remember being in the bank and absolutely going mental at these two lads in the bank who worked in the bank. And I was like, they were like useless. I was trying to make a payment to India at the time. And it was just like a red mist had come over me. Yeah. And I am just screaming. And there's people in the bank like, oh my God. And then
What is this woman doing?
Yeah, it was just like my hormones were off the chart. And I remember as well in the office being on the phone to BT at the time. And I must have been on the phone for an hour and 40 minutes to them, who then told me I still couldn't have an account with them. And I was like, I've been on the phone for an hour and 40 minutes. And I remember just launching into this tirade. And Kelly was sat there with her head in her hands, like, oh my God, like, wow, you are on another level today. It was like I just needed to vent. And unfortunately, the woman at BT just got it. But yeah, I was just, so it was just crazy times. But listen, I worked literally until I was in labour and I was paying invoices still in labour.
Oh my God.
So, of course, you're going to go for a lot of mood swings. I never got a minute. And I'm applying more and more pressure because I knew I had to have a little bit of time off, of course. But I was straight back into work.
And I think that's what it is when you're like so hormonally activated like you were, to then you're pushing against that and creating that friction, which in turn creates the outburst, creates the events. I remember as well, when I was pregnant, I was like 6 months pregnant. We were at the airport, very similar situation. Someone just wrong place, wrong time, and they just fucking got it. Yeah. And I was just like, I'm not even sorry at this point. Like I don't even care anymore. And I think it is so what we have to carry as women.
It was just like rage, you know what I mean?
Completely.
But it wasn't like...
It's not personal, it's not specific to... It's just... And I think what we have to carry as women, like we don't often talk about the hormonal side of things, like once a month feeling like, you know, a certain type of way that makes us fatigued, makes us question our decision making, all of these different parts of our cycle that we just get on with. And then, like you said, that's a perfect illustration. You're trying to run your business, you're also crazily hormonally activated because you're pregnant or trying to get pregnant, and that's what happens. And then it's just like, women are crazy, and it's like, no, it's our biology.
Listen, honestly, and I'm just like, oh, forget about that. You know, I'll forget about it like within 5 minutes. Even if someone like, I'm like, oh my God, you've done this, blah, blah, blah. I am so quick over it. I'm like, move on, let's just move on, let's crack on. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? Even if it's a big mistake or a big fuck up or something's happened, I'm like, right, move on, let's do it. Lesson learned, let's move on. And I'm literally like, next breath, go. I can't dwell on anything.
That makes complete sense with why you are where you are now with Elle Sera, because you haven't stopped. You haven't stopped once to even think. You've just gone right, next, and that's led you to where you are now. But in terms of what's next, like, what does that look like? Have you got like a big, and you don't have to share it, but do you have like a big goal that you're aiming for?
Defo, yeah. I'm always aiming for something, yeah.
And all these steps that you're taking now lead up to that.
Definitely, yeah. So we're bringing on a lot of new products now. My biggest thing is innovation. Love innovative products, and they've got to have something extra to them. And also, I want to make products that I want to take. And I look at my supplement cupboard, I'm looking at, why am I buying that from them? I've spent a bloody fortune on that by now.
I've set up a whole company to do this.
And I could just be making this myself, because I know that it would be a better version of what they're making, or I know where it was coming from, who it was manufactured by, and it would be a class, because I'm not taking anything personally myself that is not fucking mega.
Yeah, of course.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
My whole life, I always joke about this, but I'm probably not far mentally away from Brian Johnson. You know what I mean? I just haven't got his resources yet.
So let's put that out there.
So I only want to take A1 grade A, great stuff. I only want to work with people who are like 18 players, you know. I've just started having polynucleotides and...
oh my God. Someone I know has literally just had that, said it was amazing.
Yeah, it's good. God, I bruised though. So the woman I go to, she's like the best aesthetics lady in the UK. She's won it 4 years running.
Oh my God,
4 years running.
amazing.
I was like, well, you are the best of the UK. There's one coming to you. Luckily, she's around the corner from me. So whatever I put in, it's got to be the best of the best, including supplements as well. So we're bringing out some new products which are class, which I'm still not completely signed off on just yet, so I can't tell you about them. But so that's really exciting. And I mean, my whole goal is to make life-enhancing products which are quality, thoroughly researched, and they're remarkable, really. Manufacturing in the UK is really important to me.
That's something that a lot of people struggle with as well, because of prices and things like that. So that's really nice to hear, because I think as well, especially where we're at politically and all of that, it's nice to have British products, and that is like a real frontier of innovation that we need to push forward.
We have really stringent measures. Listen, the supplement industry is like the Wild West, and even I always think that we should have more regulation in it. Absolutely. But I only want to work with partners who share the same values as us. And the companies that I use to manufacture our products, I've been to their labs, I've seen the production line, I know what they're doing.
You know how they treat that,
Yeah, I'm speaking to the people who work there, who are actually making our pills or whatever. And I'm like, you know, are they happy? Are they having a good time? Do you know what I mean? You can see it. It's a family-run company with 30 years experience. They're amazing.
I love that.
So they send
and the fact that it's British as well.
Send me a nice hamper every Christmas. Do you know what I mean? We have a good,
that's exactly what you want.
Good relationship, and I can, you know, make sure I know where the raw materials are coming from. They have a robust kind of production line, and that's really important. Are they third-party testing the raw materials where they're coming from? It's made in semi-automatic machines, which, you know, a lot of cheaper quality would just get a machine to make the whole product. We have semi-automatic, therefore the quality is there because it's a longer kind of journey on the production line, which means nothing to the end user. But
that's super interesting.
But the way it's made is important. And again, people sometimes might quibble and say, oh, it's too expensive. I'm like, let me just explain to you exactly what's gone into the production line of this, you know, of this product, and how it is different from some of the stuff that you could get on the high street or in Home and Bargains. And I'll tell you,
like on Amazon for like £2.50.
Yeah, it's like garbage. And do you really want to put that in your body? Do you want the, you know?
Something that's really come through throughout this whole conversation is that it's about the best, having the best attitude, the best energy, the best morals, the best, you know, and that seems to be something that you're in continually striving for.
So last week I went to London and I met so we make all the products in the UK, but the packaging is made in China, and because I wanted the best. They make the best by a country mile. They make best packaging. So they came over to London, my packaging girls, and when I did a Zoom call with them a few years ago, and I was chatting to them, and they were like, yeah, I was like, so what kind of packaging do you make? And they were like, oh, we make for this company. I was like, hang on a minute, open my drawer. And I said, this, did you make this? She was like, yeah. And I was like, brilliant. This, did you make this? And they were like, yeah. I'm literally going through all my products in my drawers, and these are big French fashion houses that you would all know. And I was like, so you make for them, and you make for them, and you make for them, and you make for them. And they were like, yeah. And I was like, wow, okay, you make for us then. Because I only want the best.
I love that though. So,
and if you're making for the biggest fashion houses in the world, I know it's going to be great quality.
100%. That's it, exactly that. And I think nowadays, especially because we are, as consumers, just so much savvier to what we maybe were 20 years ago, 30 years ago, and even before that, you know, people do now think, well, where is this from? Like, people are starting to, I know it might be like the early adopters, but we are starting to question things a little bit more in the fact that you've already done all that due diligence. You're well ahead of the curve of where a lot of mainstream brands are.
Well, exactly. But also to actually go and meet your packaging supplier, right? Again, I took them to Sushi Samba. You know,
did they like it?
They loved it. Yeah, felt for them. God, they were so tired. But because they'd literally flown into Paris, then Italy, then London, and you know they were meeting all their clients and stuff. But these are the hardest working women I've ever met, because they've got 2 kids each between them, so 4 between them, and they've got quite a big team. But you know, I'm always chatting to them at like 8, 9 o'clock in the morning, which is their bedtime. But they literally work 24 hours a day because they've got clients in Australia, clients in France, clients all over Europe, Russia, wherever. And I'm just, I don't know how you girls do it. And they're like, oh, it's so tough. And I just felt for them. But it was lovely to meet them personally, because I speak to these girls all the time.
Oh, that is so nice. That's also completely unheard of.
Yeah, because sometimes you're just like, who really cares about your packaging? I mean, you know, some of the like Jiffy bags that we get to send, you know, they come from Stevenage in the UK, but it's not like I'm ever going to meet them and stuff.
Yeah, but you met the girls from China.
But they're these girls, they told me more in that 2 hours about packaging and production. And packaging is something that I really am obsessive with.
Yeah.
One of my favourite things to do is go into Selfridges and just go and look at all the new packaging that's out there. And I do this thing where I close my eyes and I look around the shop and I think, what's calling to me, right?
Oh my God, I love that you're so in tune with your energy. This is what I mean when that earlier question, everything for you feels like it's been very intuitive. Even if you haven't realised it is, it's all based on feeling as opposed to strategy and trying to
There's never
over-engineer
a strategy.
things.
Yeah.
Maybe that is the secret to success.
Oh, I don't know. I think we're getting to a place now. We probably need to be a bit more strategic, forecast a few things. I'm a bit like,
I feel like,
fuck it, I'll do it. I'll just sort this later.
but I feel like the bigger you get, that's when it's, and I think especially when people are starting out, it's like, right, I need to have a social strategy and I need to have a packaging strategy. And sometimes it's like, just do it. Like, just go with what feels good, go with what feels right and worry about the strategy later. And that sounds like exactly what you've done. And yes, okay, you're scaling now. So you're at the point of, right, we've got to be a bit more strategic. But even that like ritual almost of going to Selfridges and being like, which packaging
is calling to me today? Yeah,
I think that's so powerful.
See what's going on in the market everywhere. I must have seen about 5 or 10 brands all doing like circular heads on stuff.
Oh right, yeah.
So like Joe Malone have brought out a lot of perfumes and they've got like glass bottles with these circular heads. And then I went into like another perfume place and they're doing circular heads and Armani were doing circular heads. I was like, oh, I've got everyone doing these circular heads everywhere now. Do you know what I mean?
So maybe that's the new.
That's all the rage.
Yeah,
but now
exactly.
it's out there, so it's done, isn't it? So you can't do circular
This is
head.
it. You want to be ahead of.
Yeah.
And it sounds like that's your strive for.
New.
Yeah.
Yeah, you want something
and
new.
to push the boundaries.
Yeah, just something that's unusual. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, exactly. And why is it so important for us to take care of our hormonal health, especially as we get older as women?
Because it's dropping off a cliff pretty much. So you are like the most fertile in your 20s, and people go on about like, oh, triggering me talking about it. I'm like, listen, I got pregnant at 37.
Yeah.
But I was a geriatric mother. Can you imagine me getting pregnant now at 39? It's not to say it wouldn't happen, but it's to say that it's going to be a lot harder.
Yeah.
And also there's a lot more complications that can happen with you and baby as you get older. That's just a fact of life.
Yeah, absolutely.
So your hormones are shifting all the time. They shift over the month and they shift over a lifetime. You hit 30s, 35, start having a small decline. You hit 40, massive decline. You hit 43, massive decline again. And, they're slowly tapering off then. But when you hit like 42, 43, it's not just they're going out fighting at this point because they're trying to get back to hormonal status. Yeah. So they're trying to make more and they're not. So now you're off on a rocket and it's just like a roller coaster of estrogen all the time. So one day you'll be mental. The next day you might be sad. The next day you might be angry and irritable and like rage.
Yeah.
And it's a real thing.
Oh, absolutely.
There's like, relationships so difficult to stay at an even keel at this time.
Completely.
Most divorces happen at this point, menopausal
I've actually never made that connection before, and that's really interesting. That's so true.
Your estrogen is declining as well, and your estrogen is like your motherly caring hormone as well. Now you give a fuck a lot less.
Yeah.
So now
the shit that you put up with before probably not going to at this point in life.
Exactly. So which you can lean into, or not. Most divorces happen. Most suicides happen around menopause as well.
Oh, that's so sad.
So there's got to be a lot more support out there in loads of different ways. There is no magic bullet. HRT is not a magic bullet.
No.
Do I believe in it? I don't know. I think it works amazing for some women. I've never tried it myself, so that's why I say I don't know. It works incredible for some women. And some women just don't like it and they don't get on with it. But whatever. You choose you. You do you. And if you want to go a natural route, go the natural route. No one's saying you have to, and no one's saying, like, what I don't like is people saying, well, this is the only way.
Yes.
Whatever.
And the judgment that then comes from that if you don't do that.
Yeah, but also what I will say is, HRT, I don't know why there's such a big question over it, because if it was any other hormone you were deficient in your body, like thyroid, for instance, you just replace it quickly with a pill.
Yeah.
Right? Or if your pancreas was low, your insulin, you would just replace it.
Yeah.
So why is it, if your hormones are dropping as a female, that people are going, no, you can't do it? You know what I mean? That's very interesting as well. And most people that I speak to on my podcast, endocrinologists, hormone specialists, they would say, well, for me, it's not a big question. I'm like, I know it's very interesting how women are still very scared of doing this. But yeah, so there you can do it naturally. You don't need to. You could take HRT, but again, there's lots of different versions of HRT as well. I think that's important. You've got synthetic versions, and then you've got bioidentical, body identical, and you just got to find one that works for you.
Yeah.
So I just believe in a woman's right to choose, and whatever
Always.
makes you feel great. You know,
That's like the bottom line of everything when we talk about women. It's just your right to choose.
yeah,
That's all it's ever really been about.
I know.
Like when we talk about it on a general, widespread thing of women's rights and equality and all that, it's just your right to choose to do whatever you want. So just like let each other live, because I think we play a part in that as well. You know, women can be so judgmental of each other, and it's like
It's the worst. I don't know one man who really sits there and rips a woman apart. I honestly don't see it. It's always women.
It's like such an issue in like the female community is how we treat each other. And you think if we're talking about, you know, we want to have this right and this right and this right, let's all just stop beating each other up for a second, because that is the crux of so much pain that women have in themselves, is how another woman's treated them. Or
yeah, I don't know. There's a lot of psychological reasons why. I think it's to do with like some women feel threatened sometimes.
Yes, absolutely.
And they don't know why they're doing it, but like other women's behaviour triggers them. I mean, I just feel like I've got my head in the sand a lot of the time. I'm not even looking at what other people are doing. I'm so busy what I'm doing. I'm not even looking at what other people are doing. No one cares.
No, exactly.
You know, that's a positive affirmation. If anyone, no one gives a fuck about you. Like, honestly.
Do you know what? You need to put that on like a diary, put that on
no one
like
gives
a phone
fuck about
case.
you.
There you go, that's new Elle Sera merch. No, it's so true, isn't it? And I feel like if we could just all just stop holding each other back for 5 minutes. Like I see it all the time, especially with motherhood. Oh my God, where are the kids? How can you be doing that? How can you be there for your kids as well? And it's always other women. It's never men saying shit about your parenting or whatever. It's always another woman. And
I always find it's women close to you as well.
Yeah.
Women who are the closest to you will say it.
Yeah, absolutely. And how do you juggle that? Obviously, you're a parent. I can totally relate to that. I've got a toddler as well. It's so hard, like you said this morning, having to leave her.
Yeah.
How do you make peace with that in your mind?
Well, what can I do? You know what I mean? What can I do? I would 1,000,000% give it up tomorrow. Give it up tomorrow and be a stay-at-home mum.
Yeah.
Definitely would. And then what? I'd go back to doing something maybe when she's a little bit older. I would do that. But unfortunately, I've set this train on the track and I can't give it up just yet. We're not at a milestone where I believe that I could just like let go of the reins.
Yeah.
Definitely think that's something I should probably try and do, is maybe bring in an MD or something like that. And then I can just do the front end of the stuff and not a lot of the stuff that I have been doing. Maybe give myself a bit more time off to spend a bit more time with her. Because I'm very, very, very much involved in a business. And if you're involved in the business, it's not a business, is it? If I got knocked down by a bus tomorrow, would that business run? Maybe.
Yeah.
Would it grow? No.
Yeah.
So that's not a business, is it? A business is something that runs without you, regardless.
Yeah, absolutely.
Put a team in place, and that's where I want to get to now. Put a really good team in place.
The fact that you've noticed that as well is you're already doing it. Do you know what I mean? Like you already know that. You know what's next, and then maybe you can get a bit of that balance back, but it's just so difficult because in the same breath you're showing her how to create something from nothing, and that's what an amazing role model for her to watch every day. And I don't know if you feel the same way as this, but for me, I'm like, my little girl will always see that I did everything I could to make the world better, to do, create something from nothing, and to give her the best life possible. And that's what kind of drives me as well.
Yeah, definitely.
With it. And that's kind of how I've tried to like make peace with it in my head as.
Yeah. It's sad that these are my best years of my life and I have to spend them away from her, or, this 30 to 40, I'm 40 in a few months. And I think, God, I'm not going to have the same appetite and energy at 40 to 50, I don't think, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that is important to me, to try and grasp these moments. So I just had a business trip where I did a photo shoot in Egypt for Elle Sera. And I thought, well, I'm going to take it with me because then I get to spend the time with her. And actually it made a lot of financial sense anyway, because what I would have had to spend on a babysitter around the clock for a week.
Well,
you know what I mean?
Exactly. Just take it with you.
Absolutely stupid.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So yeah, and it was just nice that I got to spend that time with her. You know what I mean?
Aww.
So that was good. So
and also she gets to see you doing what you do really well as well. And, there's such a nice synergy of being able to be a mum and a business mum at the same time. And I know those moments are fleeting sometimes, but how nice that you have the freedom
I
to
think
be
it's
able to do
important to be in the moment, though. If I am in work, I'm in work. Don't try and do both at the same time. Even if you're in the same room as her, don't be like replying to emails and stuff like that at the same time. That is something that I will not do anymore. Like
That's
if I'm with her, I don't give a fuck about anybody else. I'm like, no, that's it. Whatever. It's not more. You're not more important. I'm not getting back to you. I'll just literally not get back to you.
Yeah.
And then I'll be like, sorry, I've been busy.
Yeah.
And just don't feel guilty. Whatever. I'm not a people pleaser. I'm famously bad at getting back to people on email. This is why I've got Kelly. On emails, on on text messages, on whatever. And I don't feel bad about it whatsoever. I do things on my time, at my pace, and I feel really comfortable with that. But I know there's a lot of people out there who haven't got that personality. They get a lot of anxiety if they feel like they're letting somebody down. And maybe that's why I'm in a leadership position and I don't work for somebody else.
Absolutely.
Because I do things the way I want to do it when I want to do it. And you can't make me do it any quicker.
It's so interesting, isn't it? That thing of like, no, I think it's so interesting.
I've only ever had one boss in my life and that lasted 9 months and then I went out on my own. You know what I mean? And that's very telling though.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's also a lot that I've seen recently about how when you become an entrepreneur, you make yourself unemployable because it's like no one would ever hire you now because someone else ain't telling me what to do now. Like I
do a lot of consultancy because I come up with loads of good ideas with things all the time. And I've got a friend called Jamie and she's got a company called the Diamond Lab, ethical diamonds, and they're absolutely sick. She's got an amazing shop on Bond Street. And I was sat there, I was like, Jamie, you've got to do this. And I'm just texting it all the way here. I was like, this is, you know what I mean? I was like, you would pay somebody a fortune to come up with this concept. Do you know what I mean? But I am just happy because that's how I don't know, I just really love these like concepts and photo shoots on marketing, anything like that. I just love it. And I'm somebody who knows how to do it quite on a budget because I've done it.
Yeah, you've been there. You've got your stripes. Like
So I feel like if I was ever to drop into any role, if I didn't have Elle Sera, that would be it. I would go into like a consultancy role and how small brands can maximize what they're doing.
I love this. It's like another business idea already.
Honestly, I have to hold myself back from business ideas all the time. Like all the time.
Yeah, I bet.
Like crazy.
How have you found building a business up north compared to what is perceived to be like down south? Because I think that's a really interesting topic.
Pros and cons. Pros, loads cheaper.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Loads cheaper, by the way, if you're like renting office space or anything like that, your resources, wages, whatever. You're missing out on a lot of action in London. I've met a lot, I know pretty much everybody up north that I need to know, pretty much. Or if I don't know them, I know somebody well and I can get a meeting if I need to know them. Everything I go to is in the south, in like networking events, and it's always London, 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 and it's always hidden costs. And because I like to do it, like I said, very comfortably.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? My hotel room cost me a fortune. My train tickets cost me a fortune. My upgrade on the train cost me a fortune. I might have had to have a blow dry before it.
Yeah.
I always get that done up north because it's cheap. Then you've got your food, drink, travelling around, taxis, Ubers, whatever. And it's 1,200 quid for one networking event.
It's so expensive.
So it's got to be worth it. It's absolutely mental. So the good thing about up north, definitely that. The other thing I see, right, with northern brands and southern brands, southern brands are obsessed with funding, VC capital, private equity. It's like they can't even begin to have a business before they've done a frigging angel investment raise or anything. I just think, what? In the north, those words that I've just said, they're not even part of anybody's vocabulary.
That is so interesting, isn't it?
Everybody goes, what? Well, why would I have investors? Why would I? What's he going to have people telling me what to do? Or I don't know anybody who's running a really successful business doing multiple millions who's taken investors. Don't know anybody up north, really.
It's so
in my clique. The girl next door to me, Sleepover Club, she's doing really well. She'd be like, what? She wouldn't even know what I'm talking about. Tatty Lashes, they were in the building next to me. Again, done it all by themselves. They've no outside investment, no I don't know anybody who's got external investment. Whereas every brand that I know in London, they're like, they wouldn't even put pen to paper without investment. I'm like, what?
It's so
That's
true.
the biggest difference.
It's so true. And I think it potentially, this is a really interesting conversation because we've spoken about this a lot on this podcast. And from me, I'm real working class background and I'm exactly the same. I'm coming to this as a startup and everyone I speak to get investment because I'm down south. And I'm thinking, what?
What for?
What is this all about? What do you mean? And then I see it everywhere. Everyone's talking about it because we're all down south. And it's so interesting because I feel like it is that real, like, gritty that is associated with up north. We've got that grit and determination to do it, regardless of whether someone's going to give me any money to do it or not. I'm going to do it. And I feel like I can really resonate with that now you've just said that. And I wonder if that is something to do that we've always just been really fucking hard workers and we're grafters and we're going to do it.
Or it's just not even in your vocabulary, like you don't even know that money's available, you know?
Yeah.
Because I have like advisors around me, financial advisors, and they were like, well, why don't you just do a raise and spend someone else's money to do that? And I'm like, no, because I know what I'm like. I do things at my own pace, at my own time. I'm not going to sit there in a board meeting. Well, I can't, most of the time, my accountants can't even nail me down for a meeting. So like, you know, and then
Never mind an investor.
Yeah, never mind an investor who says, oh, can we have a look at through why you've spent this on this? No.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
you know what I mean? You know, there will become a stage where you think, okay, we want to grow it out of a bootstrap bedroom brand.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to need some strategic advisors and their money to do that. But at the moment, I don't want a headache of having to answer to somebody.
It's so interesting, isn't it? Because when people have like a startup idea, what would you give them as their advice if there's no money? What do they do? Where do they start?
Good question. And I actually asked my partner this the other day on a podcast. It wasn't the other day, actually, a few months ago on a podcast. Like, if you had no money, how do you make some money? So this is the one thing that he used to do. And he was like probably early 20s at this point. And by the way, he's great, exceptional entrepreneur today. So, he was young 20s and he leafleted all around nice areas, right? Nice big houses and stuff like that. And it said, rag and bone man, I'll come and take it. I don't know, there was some catchy slogan on it. And it was something like, I can't remember. I'll have to get him to retell the story. But anyway, he posted all these leaflets around and basically he was going to go through your garage and take away loads of the stuff, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
That you didn't want to get rid of. Because I know myself, I get rid of loads of stuff that I'm thinking, oh, someone would love that, or someone would love that, or someone would love that. And I just want it out of the house, do you know what I mean?
Yeah, completely.
And I'm not sitting there on freaking Facebook Marketplace or anything like that. So if I'd got a leaflet through, I'll go, yeah, great, come around and go through the garage and take loads of stuff, whatever. So he used to do that. And then he used to sell it all at car boots. And he used to make like 700 quid every weekend. So that was like...
That's good going.
Yeah, it was good going, yeah. And he always tells this story of like, you know, I was doing everything. Before. Everybody thinks he's like an overnight success, but he's not. He has been doing
It's been since then.
Oh, he's been doing it all his life. Do you know what I mean? It's some way or another. So if you've got no... But let's say you're not rag and bone man or whatever, and you don't want to go sifting through houses to collect stuff, and you wanted to start something. It's never been easier now. You've got AI running wild around you. There's really no excuse not to be leaning into that.
Yeah, absolutely.
And kind of, I don't know, I always think, okay, what would I do if I had nothing? And it's pretty easy now to try and... It depends what you're into.
Yeah.
If this was a real life situation, because I have business ideas all of the time, that I want to do.
There are so many problems that need solving as well, even if they're micro, like just making a product that exists slightly better than it is now.
I've got it. Like I could literally spin up a business this afternoon with you and I'd say, this is what we're going to do. This is how we're going to do it. I've already done it. I've already bought the domain name. You know, I could have it nailed. Have I got the headspace for it?
No.
No, I haven't.
No.
Do I still want to do it? Yes. And what my ultimate thing would be is I want a nice big office with teams of people working on all these different projects.
I love this.
That's what I actually want to do.
Yeah.
And so there's like one that I've got in my head that would like just a little kind of Instagram brand it would be. You know what I mean? It would be
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
I actually thought in my head, I'd be like, I'm going to do it. And I've actually put pen to paper on this entire design for it and everything. And I thought, that is going to pay for my extension that I want. Do you know what I mean? That's
No,
how
I
I'm
love
looking
that.
at it.
And I
Yeah.
think as well, it is that thing of like, just start. Stop
Yeah.
worrying, stop stressing, stop over strategizing and engineering everything and just start.
Yeah.
If you've got an idea, just go for it. And I think we, especially down here,
You're giving me anxiety. I feel like I need to do it.
that's inspiration. That's
I'm
ready
not,
to go.
like, doing it fast enough.
Yeah, but I think it is that thing of like, just start. Just start and
Yeah.
see what happens. Because I think so many people get so caught up in like, oh, but I need to register. And you'll figure it out. You will figure it all out.
I mean,
Just
well,
go.
yeah, I've learned the hard way in a few things. Like maybe you should register a trademark. Like I didn't register Elle Sera, and then I did it after the fights of like about a year after I'd launched it, and then Elle magazine came at us with a trademark dispute, which then rumbled on for 2.5 years. And
Oh my good, I didn't know this.
Yeah, and then cost me a fortune. And actually, I always thought it was complete. Like I was like, they're trying their luck. I don't even want to take this seriously. And my solicitor Graham, he was like really taking it seriously, and so was my dad. And shout out to Graham from Appleyard Lees for getting me out of that one. But yeah, it rumbled on for ages, and I just thought, this is just.
Stupid.
I was very cavalier about it.
Mm-hmm.
But I actually really nearly changed the name. I actually really nearly did, and then I was like, it was after my birth. After labour, I thought, I'm not doing it. I'm not doing it. I'd rather just
something changes in you, doesn't it, after you have a kid?
Yeah.
There is something in you that, whether it's definitely biological, but there's something in your mindset that just, for me anyway, just switched, and I was just like, I just don't fucking care anymore.
Yeah.
Like, so there's something so much.
Well,
more
imagine
important
what
than all of
that
this.
switch is going to be when you hit menopause, and you're like, I really don't fucking care anymore.
Do you know what? I'm actually so excited. I'm so excited to not give a fuck about anything.
I'm not excited. After the traumas that I hear
I
about.
know.
I think, listen, I'll tell you what else I was reading. This is interesting. So women who eat more oily fish and obviously a lot of fresh fruit, legumes and grains and things like that, they can delay their menopause for like 2 years. And women who are eating a lot of refined carbohydrates, junk food, processed food, yeah, you're really going to ramp it on and make it worse. So
that's interesting.
Yeah. Obviously, how you live your life is...
And I think as well, that's also like, when you actually think about it, it's like, well, yeah, because it's natural energy source, isn't it?
Yeah, and like, all you are is a bunch of cells that are photocopying themselves all the time.
Exactly.
And you want to give them the best chance of getting the crispest, nicest photocopy. Because that's all they're doing, recycling themselves all the time.
That's such a good analogy.
And if you're damaging your cells with oxidative stress, free radicals, everything, all of the time, like I had a test done that said I shouldn't be eating, well, most humans shouldn't be eating it. You know, like charred meat, like barbecued meat with black bits on. Yeah, never do that. That really damages your DNA. So you want to give yourself the best chance of those cells copying themselves really, really well and beautifully. So you've got to eat really beautifully.
Yeah.
Boring, but whatever. I actually love like eating well.
Yeah, and I think it's like what it does for your energy as well, in terms of how then you show up knowing that you have put the most natural, good, nourishing product in your body, whether that's a supplement, whether that's food.
Don't get me wrong though. I tell you what, I really does get on my wick these days. I was this girl when I was running health retreats, and that's all I was doing. I was completely immersed in this life of like making smoothies and, you know, smoothie bowls and making it look beautiful, like this Pinterest perfect, beautiful food. And, you know, oh, look at me. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? And I was almost being a toxic influence. And by the way, I see loads of them now who are like, oh, this is what I'm doing for my spring detox, health flow. It's bullshit. They're not busy enough. That's all that tells me is you're not busy enough because you've got time to do all this. Because I know, by the way, I want to live my life like that, but I'm so busy that I can't live my life like that. And they'll say, well, you're not making good choices, you're not organised. I know I'm not. I'm like a scatterbrain most of the time. You're absolutely right, I'm not organised, but I certainly haven't got time to sit there and, you know,
organise
make a frigging 7-layered rainbow smoothie with chia pudding on top and all the rest of it, and do a sound bath and all the rest of it. Honestly, I just think there's a lot. And then what that does is make people feel inadequate. Imagine you're a shift worker, or you're, you know, and
single mum running 2 jobs.
Yeah, all those things. And it's just not everyone's reality. And you can get kind of fed into this lifestyle, because I know I do it. I even think, oh God, I wish I could be a bit more like that. And I'm a bit like, no, I can't. You know what I mean? I managed to read a book for the first time on holiday with pleasure. I was like, wow, I haven't done this for ages.
No, I can totally relate.
It wasn't even holiday, by the way, it was a business trip. So yeah, but I managed to read a book. But even then, it's about longevity. It's still in my space.
It's still work,
not
isn't
like,
it? Yeah,
it's
that's
not like
exactly it.
I'm reading a Jackie Collins.
Is there anything that you have found that does help you switch off?
Mad Men. I sit there and watch, and I must have watched it like 3 times.
Yeah. So for you, it is TV.
Watch,
just watch.
Yeah, but it's got to be something that I'm
grips you enough to like.
Yeah. I'm not like a Love Islander or anything like that. I know how bollocks reality TV is anyway, but yeah, just something like that. Well shot, well executed, great storylines. You know, it's really entertaining. Thought-provoking. It's all about marketing, isn't it?
Exactly.
And advertising. So I kind of like that. That's how I've been switching off recently.
I love that that's how you switch off, and even then you still find the thread in it of like, but it's marketing and it's...
I just like it.
Yeah.
And then the only other time where I'm truly not thinking about anything, but even then I am actually just thinking about work, is I go to the gym and I speak, and I have my phone in, and I'm at the will of my PT, and I just listen to an instruction. I don't really talk to him. We don't even have each other's numbers. Do you know what I mean? It's so professional. I go in there. He doesn't really know. He'll ask me a cursory few questions about what I got up to at the weekend, but I very know little about him. And that's the way it should be. I'm there to go in there. I follow an instruction, you know,
and it does help you switch
my heart
off.
And you know, try and get in a bit of muscle tissue, something like that. But if I'm lagging a bit, there's one way he can really get the extra mileage out of me, and there's 2 things that I think about. One, my subscriber numbers for Elle Sera, and 2, if Grace was watching me, what would she think? And I don't want to be a loser. So I always, if he says anything like that to me, he's like, come on. Like, you know what I mean? Like, come on, think of your subscriber numbers. And I'm like, bang, you know, I can get another extra bit out of myself. So they're big motivators for me, 2 big motivators. But yeah, the only true time I can switch off is 1 and maybe 1 hour a night when I might flick a episode on. And then in the gym where I hand my phone in, no one can get to me. And I'm not a mother, I'm not a business owner, I'm not anyone from Elle Sera, I'm not a partner, I'm nothing. I'm just there following an instruction that I haven't had to think about or plan or do anything.
You're not carrying the mental labour of that session. You just show up and someone else is in control. Yeah. And also I think it's actually a really nice thing that you don't really know anything about each other, because then you get into that conversation and your head's immediately back there of, oh God, I've got to do this today. You just reminded me. Yeah. Like, how nice to have that relationship. Yeah. But yeah, it's so hard to switch off, but it sounds like you found a few ways. And I love that Grace is watching. Yeah. Aww.
And then the other thing is, I've got a really terrible knee, really bad. It's like absolutely shot to pieces. And I went to a physio in London, and I'd had an MRI, and he was reading an MRI, and he was like, okay, I think you need hyaluronic injections in your kneecap. I was like, right, okay, brilliant, blah, blah, blah. He's like, but what is it that you want to do that you can't do? I went, I want to win at sports day. And he's like, well, how old's your daughter? I was like, she's 2. He's like, so when I was like, well, it's 2 years from now, but I need to start training for it.
Like it's a marathon. I've got to start now. I've got to get my regime in.
I don't just win. I want to win by a country mile. You know what I mean?
Oh, I love that.
I'm going to turn up and do it in like a self-portrait dress, like I haven't planned it for the last 2 years. You know?
Me running. I couldn't.
I'm not wearing the right outfit. I'll go on then.
Let me just take my heels off.
And still win. You know what I mean? So I was like, I really need to start practicing.
Oh, that's so nice. And how does she understand that when you're going out to work, it's for her?
No, of course she
just
doesn't.
Is like, you're going and it's just...
Oh my God, she's going, I want my mummy, I want my mummy. And I'm like, oh, she's like, no, mummy, no. Like that. She's got a hand around her throat. And I'm like, it's like peeling off a koala off me. And and by the way, I would take her with me in a heartbeat. I actually hate leaving her. Do you know what I mean? We have such good fun together. Every time she sees the Brat logo, she goes, mummy work. I'm like, yeah, it's mummy's work, yeah.
Oh, so there's some sort of consciousness around like, okay, mummy works.
Yeah.
And that will only grow the older she gets.
Yeah, and I take her to work. She knows when we drive past my office, she goes, "That's Mummy's work." I go, "Yeah, that's right."
Oh.
But yeah, she's cute. She has no concept of the things that I buy her all because of work.
Yes,
You know what I mean? Absolutely nothing. She's just like, I want it. You know, I can't get. I don't know how people do it. Because yesterday I went to the garden centre and she's fleeced me for a book and these like rabbit ornaments. I thought, okay, we have like a nice entrance table in the house and we decorate it for every season. I never thought I'd ever be this kind of woman, by the way, ever in my life. But here we are. Yeah, so we bought these like ornament bunnies so we can make a big Easter.
Oh, that's nice.
We've got an Easter tree with eggs on it. Mad. But yeah, I've just got her a Wendy house. And I've gone to town on it. I really have. And everybody's coming round because I've had a paint. I've put electrics in it, heating in it, insulation in it. You know, it's like, wow. And
this is like a 10-10 Wendy house.
Yeah, it is. And everyone's like, "Are you doing this for you or her?" And I'm like, a bit of both, I think.
But also that's so like intrinsic to you, is like, we're gonna do it the best. If we're gonna do something, we're gonna do it right. We're gonna do it properly. We're gonna do it the best.
That's why I'm gonna get more mileage out of it if it's nice and warm in there.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, and if there's like, I've put some external plugs on it so we can put fairy lights on it, and you know, let's get our use out of it in all seasons.
So nice.
Otherwise, what's the point if you're only using it in the summer?
Well,
it's freezing and everything's mouldy in there, and the spiders all over it. So I've gone, yeah. It's called Lavender Cottage. It's really cute.
Oh, that's so cute. That is lovely.
Yeah.
If you could go back and tell yourself one thing, what would it be?
Thought about this in the car. There are no platonic friendships with men. That's one of the things I would definitely go back and say.
Oh my God, that is so good.
You know what? You know when you see like, I don't know, I've been in some situations in my life and sometimes I think, I don't know how I'm still here. And I would be heartbroken if I saw Grace do half of the stuff that I did.
Yeah.
It's just not going to happen. I will literally, honest to God, I've done it all, seen it all, definitely been done there, bought the T-shirt, know exactly what they're like.
Yeah.
Know exactly what situations people are getting into. And honestly, I look back now, like I remember being in this club in Manchester and then I'm absolutely pissed out my head. Absolutely pissed out my head. And this guy's got a Ferrari outside and he's pissed out his head as well. And he's like, "Oh, do you want to go for a ride in my Ferrari?" I'm like, yeah. I left all my mates in the club. I go out. And do you remember Ronaldo crashed into, could have been a Lamborghini or Ferrari, a really fast car. He crashed into this tunnel. He said, "Should we go down that tunnel in Manchester?" I was like, yeah, go on then. So we're going down it really fast. Anyway, he takes me back to the club and I go back to my mates, but I must have been gone an hour and a half. But I'm like, I literally could have ended up dead.
Yeah.
You know, but by the way,
you don't think about that though.
Thousands of these encounters.
Yeah.
And I think, so I was thinking about this question in the car and thinking, what would I say to Grace?
Yeah.
And I think it's like, I'll just be more on top of her than I was ever kept on top of. Because my parents were divorced. I had 2 different lives, you know, very much 2 different lives. And you could hide who you were at what mistake.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But I just think, yeah. And you know, like you see a lot of these things about women getting attacked and things like that. I always think that. And I'll tell you now that in my experience, it's never some kind of randomer on the street. It's always the people you trust.
Yeah,
it's always like your best mate. Quote unquote best mate.
It's so true. And there's actually the latest figures for violence against women and girls in the UK. I think it's like every 10 minutes. So every 10 minutes, a woman globally is killed by a family member or intimate partner. And in the UK, that is your highest cause of death.
Yeah.
As a woman.
Yeah.
How scared, like you said, it's always someone you know.
It's always someone you know, because you're like, yeah, come back to mine, blah, 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 you know. No, not have that. So that would be one thing, because I know I've been in some really horrible situations in my life, which could have been avoided or whatever, and I was too stupid and reckless. And as I've got older, I've definitely become a lot less reckless.
Yeah.
But
that's wisdom as well, though, isn't it? Of learning from.
But, you know, kids are going to be kids, and I feel like I could literally go on and on and on about it, and they're going to want to do it anyway.
Yeah.
Aren't they?
And also, I feel like from my own experience, the more your parents go on about something, the more you're likely to be like, you don't know what you're talking about.
I think you've just got to expose them to really nice environments. That starts with their school, starts with their school friends, who are their friends and who are their parents. And I sound like I'm being overzealous here or to some kind of snob, and I'm not. It's just, they're going to spend more time with them than they are probably you at some stage. So that's really important, exposing them to nice environments. And I've only realised that as I've got older, because I've started exposing myself to nicer people and nicer environments, and people who are my age who probably did have those nicer experiences in nicer environments growing up. And I see that the people they are now, and they are so engaging, so confident. There's a different level of confidence in them. You know what I mean? There's no chips on their shoulders. They're just lovely, lovely people to deal with. And I think, I really want that for Grace. So I think that's another thing as well I would do. I'd try and expose her to the nicest of people.
Yeah, I love that. And just like knowing that you've done a good enough job that whatever decision she makes.
Yeah, I feel like I've taken a lot of shit so she doesn't have to. And Danny as well, he's taken a lot of shit in his life so that the kids don't have to.
Yeah, that's it.
So otherwise, what are you doing it for? I mean, what am I doing it for?
What are you, yeah, exactly.
What am I doing it for? I'm not going to sit there and go, oh, I wish I'd bought more shoes, or I wish I bought more handbags.
You can't take that with you, but what you can leave is a legacy for Grace.
Exactly. And the person that she's going to be shaped to become is actually going to be Grace's achievement. So you've got to make sure you do a good job. I mean, I always joke with my dad now. You know, he came to see me speak at an event, and the speaker went, actually, Elissa's dad's in the crowd, and he gave everyone a wave. I was like, he's come to see his return on investment.
Yeah,
because
that's it, exactly.
It's finally kicking in now. You know what I mean?
It was all worth it. And just lastly, before I let you go, if you could have a coffee with any woman, who would it be?
I thought about this on the way up as well, and there was 2 women that I picked. So both dead. One would be Jackie Collins.
Yeah.
She's my absolute hero. I have pictures of her everywhere, all over my house. I was lucky enough to meet her. We're still Instagram friends to this day, and I feel like we would have been absolutely amazing friends today. She'd been so proud of me now. But yeah, she has been such an inspiration. I don't know why I felt such a connection to her, but I just did. And she is just incredible. And I always try and buy like her memorabilia and stuff. I've got my eye on this bracelet that used to belong to her at the moment. It's in an auction. And I was like, I'm having that. I'm absolutely having that.
Oh my God, in a past life, maybe you were Jackie Collins. Who knows?
Maybe, but she was a class act in every way. She was amazing. She really broke boundaries, and she was great. I love her. So I've got like huge pictures of her all over the house and stuff like that. So she would be one. And then my other one would be my grandma.
Oh.
My dad's mum, because I didn't really get to know her very well. And she came from this tiny little island in Ireland that was off the coast of the west coast of Ireland called Inishark, which had like 50, 60 people on the island. And bearing in mind, I lived on a desert island. I feel like we've got this island resilience in my blood. And I think she died when I was about 2 or 3. So I didn't really, I've got a few memories of her, but not very many. So I feel like she would be somebody that I'd like to get to know a bit more.
Oh, that's lovely. Yeah. What a lovely, wholesome point to end the episode on. Thank you so much. This has been such an insightful conversation. And yeah, it's been such a pleasure.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.